Medellin Cartel. The Medellin Cartel was formed officially in 1982 in Medellin, Colombia, but the DEA had been referring to a Medellin trafficking syndicate from 1977. The group was an organized criminal network of both drug smugglers and suppliers formed in response to the kidnapping of a member of the Ochoa family, founding members of the cartel. The group responsible for the kidnapping was M19, a left-wing communist guerrilla group. This also led to the formation of the notorious paramilitary wing, Death to Kidnappers, or MAS as they would be known. The group was headed by a number of infamous men. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, also known as El Pablo or Don Pablo, being the most well known, along with George Luis Ochoa Vasquez and Carlos Reda Rivas. These three men, commonly referred to as the Big Three, led the Medellin Cartel for most of the 1980s. Also, Jose Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha took over from Carlos Rivas after he was arrested and extradited to the United States in 1987. The Medellin Cartel at its peak reportedly brought in US $420 million a week, supplied 80% of the world's cocaine, and smuggled 15 tons of cocaine into the United States every day. This made the cartel one of the wealthiest criminal organizations to have ever existed, and as the cartel's money and power grew, so did its influence over politics, the media, real estate, and international banking. Each of the cartel bosses even had their own private armies with some of the best weapons money can buy. The Medellin cartel was made up of a number of different influential men and women, the most well-known obviously being Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar began his career in crime by stealing cars and even gravestones. In the 1960s, Escobar went to the United States and witnessed a massively expanding demand for drugs. This gave Escobar a head start in the cocaine trafficking industry that would help him secure a position at the top. Escobar was a ruthless man who rarely let people get in his way. The show Narcos on Netflix, in my opinion, gives a fairly accurate portrayal of what Don Pablo was really like. An egotistical, violent man who would do whatever it took to achieve his goals. Pablo was a family man that did care greatly for his wife and his kids. And according to Juan Pablo Escobar, Pablo's son, whose name has since been changed to Sebastian Marroquin, whilst they were on the run, Pablo burnt $2 million worth of US notes to keep warm. His intellect, ruthlessness, and boldness all helped him achieve what he did. The structure of the cartel is fairly intricate. As opposed to groups like the Yakuza in Japan with a pyramid-like structure, the Medellin Cartel was an organization essentially made up of all the individuals' resources joined together. The group's members not only joined their cocaine production, distribution, and transportation networks, but also their political and security connections. The men who did the dirty work for the cartels were known as Sicarios. These were the hitmen of the cartels, and some who worked for the Medellin Cartel reportedly killed hundreds of people and helped in the murder of thousands. Interestingly, it was strictly forbidden to use drugs if you were part of the Medellin Cartel. Even the bosses were not allowed to use them, obviously in the privacy of their own homes they did, but only occasionally and in small doses. And if the others found out, according to actual members, they would have been killed or severely punished. It required a network of over 1 million people to get the cocaine manufactured, transported, and sold in the United States. This includes the farmers in Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia, the drivers, the processors in Colombia, and the sellers on the streets in the US. This is a massive amount of people involved in a single criminal network. This power base is what allowed the cartel to be so influential. It got them rich and made them one of the most powerful criminal organizations to have ever existed. The bosses of the cartel, Escobar obviously being the most notorious, would build schools, hospitals, roads, and even bridges to keep the public on their side. They would hand out money, Pablo doing this regularly at his campaign rallies when he was running for Congress. Keeping the Colombian people on their side was key to remaining relatively untouchable by the government. In 1984, the Medellin Cartel formed the ACDEGAM, or the Association of the Middle Magdalena Ranchers and Farmers, as a sort of front for the cartel to handle public relations and many logistical aspects. ACDEGAM would also be key in allowing the Medellin Cartel's paramilitary groups, such as MAS, a legal front. The group in the late 1980s to early 1990s ran a terrorist campaign to get rid of the extradition law that would see them sent to the United States. The narco-terrorism that would ensue engulfed the country, turning many people against them. Kidnappings, murders, and bombings were all used. On April 30th, 1984, the Minister of Justice at the time, Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, was killed by gunmen on a motorcycle. And in 1985, the M19 terrorist group took the Palace of Justice and kept it under siege, resulting in, after the military retook it, 91 deaths, with 11 of them being judges. Many allegations suggest it was the Medellin Cartel who funded the M19. Also, many bombs were detonated throughout the years. The most notorious was the bombing of a plane in 1989 that resulted in 107 lost lives. In 1987, Carlos Rivas was captured and sent to the United States to die in prison. Jose Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha took over from Carlos, but in 1989, Gacha was killed along with his son and another high-ranking Medellin cartel member, Gilberto Redon, in Tolu, Colombia. The shootout involved almost 1,000 police officers and 2 helicopter gunships. After a number of high-ranking Medellin members were killed, the cartel was hit hard. The war against Pablo and the Medellin Cartel was finally over on the 2nd of December 1993, when he was shot dead in a middle-class suburb in Medellin by Colombian police. Although the cartel was in reality defeated months before Pablo Escobar was killed, this didn't end the cartel entirely. The massive operations and wealth may have been greatly reduced, but a group called La Oficina de Envigado, or the Office of Envigado, founded an enforcement wing of the Medellin Cartel that still exists and operates today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.